Okay, I wanted to do a video on this yard. This yard was in an earlier video a number of weeks ago, showing us introducing 5-frame nukes that were averaging 3 to 5 frames of bees into a single-story box, and then giving them a 2-gallon bucket. And then later we came back and gave them another box, mostly foundation, and put a inside 1.5 gallon feeder in there, filled it, and the 2-gallon bucket. I think is this our 4th trip to this yard now since we established? I think it is. And the reason I want to talk about this is I normally don't address criticism, but I think this is an educational moment. I've gotten more comments than I care to about feeding bees sugar syrup, saying I'm part of the problem. Feeding makes them sick, lazy, weak, and if those kind of comments are done politely, I leave them. Everybody's got their opinion. I've actually had to delete some comments because people addressed it in such a rude fashion, and I had to get rid of that. I have done this thousands of times, grown colonies artificially on thin sucrose syrup. And I'm here to tell you that idea that it makes them sick and weak and lazy and all that is absolutely false. I've been doing this for decades, and I just don't see an issue at all. So you can see John's kind of shuffling some of the foundation to the center, and we're going to get this fully drawn out. Selena's is a little smaller, but these are getting close to being finished, and they're healthy. They look great. We were just in another yard looking at those. They were singles. They looked great. Sucrose syrup is not bad for bees. That's all there is to it. Now, I'm not saying it replaces honey. I'm not trying to say that. But there's a place for growing colonies artificially if you choose to do so. It's not a problem. Now, I also have to add that pollen is a part of the equation. If you don't have any pollen coming in, this doesn't work so well, and yes, indeed, you might end up with some bees that are malnourished and, kind of succumb to a lack of nutrition. These colonies, even though it's been raining a lot and we didn't make very much honey, didn't have hardly any nectar flow up here, they are looking good. They've got pollen in the combs, and that is part of the equation. So this works. I've done it so many times. This works. That's my bottom line. What do you think, John? Do you concur?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's pop a couple more. Let's go over here and look some more.
Okay.
Let's not act like we just have. You need a smoker? Yeah.
No feeding the buckets.
Do you want to? I'm thinking once we equalize, we should probably at least do the bottoms.
Yeah, feed the bottom, but not the buckets. I think that'll be done with an inside feeder.
These four.
Well, no, one of them. Yeah, I think they're done after one more bottom feeder. 2-gallon bucket would be a bit much. And I fully expect some to be smaller. I know that for sure. Yeah, that one's a little smaller. I'd say another 2-gallon bucket and a feeder with that one. Same here. One more round. We'll get them there.
You want me to shuffle to the center, right?
Yeah.
You can see where this was all foundation. You know what I mean? You want to slide those in.
Coming along. Our syrup is 1 1/4 parts water to 1 part sugar, so it's a little thinner than 1 to 1, and that's the key. You actually do better with thin syrup than you do with thick syrup in this instance, trying to get foundation drawn out and brood created. They do better with thin sucrose syrup. And there is a difference between sucrose and high fructose corn syrup in this instance. I would agree that feeding high fructose corn syrup is not great for bees. It's my opinion. A lot of guys do it. It works. But they do so much better on sucrose. That one's a little smaller. Let's take the box off and see if there's an issue.
What is it?
Might just be a smaller colony.
Right.
Well, yeah, they're just smaller. Yeah, check the brood. Let's make sure they're not queenless or something. Could be an issue there. I've done the math on this. You know, at first thought you might think, that is it really worth it? That's a lot of sugar syrup and that's expensive. But the results are worth it. What you get out of the dollar spent and the labor involved is actually worth it. It pays in my view. That's actually very nice. Look at all that pollen. Yeah, I don't know why that one's smaller. Maybe it was just a real small nuke when we introduced it.
I'm gonna add some comb to it.
Yeah, let's give that one some of the drawn comb.
Okay.
What are we doing with these?
Hey, check out that bulge in the feeder right there too. Is that too much?
This one.
No. Okay, it looks okay.
Put that back in there, are you?
Yeah, we can. It's okay.
That one looks about done. Well done, cooked. And that one's smaller. Okay, got a ways to go. Might do a little equalizing or not. Actually, I think a 2-gallon bucket would be just about right to finish that thing. That one's done. This yard of bees was set up with nukes. I guess the nukes we brought in here were averaging about 4 frames. We installed them. We've been back twice. They've just finished their second 2-gallon bucket, and they are beautiful. They've drawn all this foundation out. All this extra stuff has been done on sugar syrup. Probably 95% sugar syrup. Very little nectar has come in this location. And this is what they're doing on sugar syrup. These are so close to done. It would actually be a mistake to feed these to draw them out anymore because it'll just make them draw out swarm cells. In this location, we're probably perhaps 3.5 weeks away from sourwood. And I'm just going to leave these singles. I could keep feeding and make them a double deep, but in this case, I'm going to leave them as singles and give them a super. So she'll take that foundation out and give them a drawn comb, and then that colony will be done. And while I have the camera on, could you just real quick pop some more of these lids down there so I can show they're all doing the same thing. We've had a little bit of a pollen struggle here. They're actually making pollen on elderberry right now, so I'm really glad to see that. Pollen is a part of the equation. If you don't have good pollen coming in, this doesn't work as well. Artificial pollen does not do the same thing in my view. Pull out one of the new frames, a brand new drawn out one, and see what they're doing there. There's the queen right there. Eggs, and what's the other side look like? Eggs and larvae. Okay. So I want to show you guys something right here. You can see how the bees are chewing this thing the whole length of that piece of wood,
Yeah.
and they're doing it on that end right there too.
Yeah.
So here's what's going on. If bees can see daylight through a crack, depending on the dimension, they're either going to close it off with propolis, or if it's big enough, they're going to try to chew through it and make another entrance. And that's what's going on here.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know how long they've been at that.
I know, that's what I'm wondering.
This,
Like,
I think this box is probably 2 years old. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks pretty new.
But you can see the distance, the space between this board and this board is pretty extreme.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
that's a badly manufactured box right there.
Right.
So that's the problem.
I know just that little bit can be a problem.
It's amazing what the chewing that bees can do. You wouldn't think they could do that, but given enough time, that's going to be an entrance.
Me and Selena saw them cleaning a queen excluder
Yeah,
yesterday, and
they
they
were
were taking the
collecting the
wax and putting it
wax.
on their legs real slowly.
Oh yeah, chewing the wax off a queen excluder.
Yeah, chewing the
Yeah.
wax. It was really cool.
Our observation hive is packed. It swarmed a while back, a couple months ago, successfully requeened itself, and now I believe it's fuller than it was when it swarmed before. As near as I can tell, it's got 4 frames of sealed brood and 4 frames of sealed honey. It's an 8-frame observation hive, 4 deep frames high and 2 wide. I can't see in there well enough to see if they've got any swarm cells or not, but I can't imagine that they won't swarm. Our sourwood is coming in a couple of weeks, and the bees know it. We have kind of 2 swarming seasons here, really. Even the regular mother colonies understand that there's another honey flow coming, and we have a bit of swarming just ahead of sourwood. Not as bad as the early spring, but it's definitely there. It definitely exists. And surely these guys will swarm too. When those 4 frames of brood hatch, it's just not going to fit. They won't fit in there. A solid frame of brood will make 2 frames of bees, and this thing's already boiling over. I looked outside a little while ago, and the bees are hanging off the pipe, the little entrance pipe right there, 3-inch PVC pipe going through the building wall. So I think they're going to swarm. Boy, they barely made it through winter too. You could have put all the bees in a pint jar back in early February, and we didn't think they were going to make it. And then suddenly there was a little small golf ball size brood pattern, and then a little bigger and a little bigger, and before we knew it, they swarmed. And now here they are again. So we did a mite treatment, oxalic vaporization back in, I guess it was mid-December on this thing when they were completely broodless, and we haven't done anything since then, and I don't think I will, honestly. With swarming twice is somewhat of a mite treatment all by itself, so I believe we'll just let them ride until next December and see what happens. We have not opened this thing in about 3 years. It swarms each year, and so far in the last 3 years they've successfully requeened themselves, and we haven't had to open it up. Another interesting fact about this is that the bees have been slowly turning lighter. The queen in there is actually semi-golden, whereas 3 years ago when we installed the nuke, it was a Caucasian queen, so they've been changing slowly. Genetics are changing. A lot of the worker bees are still on the dark side, but the queen is now golden rather than dark. Very interesting. So I would think it'll swarm in the next week or so. Could be wrong, but that's just what seems like it's going to happen. Just absolutely packed full of bees.